Hello, 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 hello. Oh, bonjour. Hello indeed. It's interesting. I have had my office in here many times. This has been my office when I first moved home. It was my office up until like 2 years ago, and I decided that I needed some sunlight. Like, I'm in the basement and there's no windows. I think I've talked about this before. There's no way, I don't see outside. So it's depressing, especially if you spend every day, 5 days a week down here. And then year after year after year, it's depressing not to see the outside. So I decided that I was going to clean up the workshop in the barn and go out there, but I can only do that in the summer months. So anyway, here we are. It is October the 31st. It's Halloween 2025. And I'm officially moved back into the house. I can't be out in the barn when it's this cold, and all this equipment will go bad. And so I have to take all of my mounts down and bring them back in the house and put them in the basement and get the basement all set up and take apart my computers. And here I am. It's been a crazy couple of weeks. I'm a slut for adventure. And that is all there is to it. I'm a filthy little slut for adventure. And an adventure was had. Adam and I had planned this trip to Kansas. We love Kansas, and we like to go for a week. And we had a week planned, and my work schedule wasn't going to allow it. Neither was my family schedule. My son has his first ever hockey tournament in Toronto. And we're going to go to the Hockey Hall of Fame. And I played hockey, and there's this connection that my son and I have with hockey. He was really bummed because I was going to miss it. I was going to be in Kansas with Adam the end of October, like basically today. I think like tonight we would have left, or maybe even yesterday. And then we would have been all the way through that first week of November. We like that because it's definitely pre-rut. It's definitely not the crazy busy time, but you can still catch deer on their feet. So I decided that I was not going to go. I was going to adjust my travel hunting schedule and go on the 17th of October through the 24th. And that would allow me to do my work stuff. It would allow me to be present with my family in Canada for his hockey tournament, his first ever Canadian hockey tournament. And I felt like it was a good decision. So I texted Adam. I was like, hey, man, I have to go now. Like, I don't have another time to go until like December. And I didn't want to wait that long. So he agreed. He was like, let's just do it now. And so I left here late on October 16th after the kids went to bed. I even took my son to hockey, came home, said goodbye to everybody. The truck was already loaded, and hit the road, drove for about 3.5 or 4 hours. Slept for 3 hours, and then got up and finished the drive. Adam did the same. We drove separately this time. It was that was a decision that wasn't difficult to make, but it was important because we don't always want to hunt the same property. Now, we hunted the same property last time, and it was fine, but you really are handcuffed to making sure that everybody's happy. And that's tough when there's multiple properties in a particular area. So we just decided we were going to take our separate vehicles, and we ended up hunting the same property for 3 days. We did a little bit of motel action to get showered and clean after that long, stinky drive. We also slept in the back of our trucks a couple nights. And I don't mind that. It gets old. And so we kind of decided maybe we would do, like an every other day, motel stay, or like every 2 days we'd stay at a motel. That's kind of what the plan was. And so we did it, and we went to some familiar properties that we had scouted in September, properties that had bucks that we were able to verify, validate via eyeballs. Like, we saw them, we bumped them, we pushed them around. And so we went back, and, we were able to see a couple does. And then I think that second morning, so we hunted Friday night, and then Saturday morning, I hunted this random. So they had started to cut crops in this particular area. It uses Unit 9. They had taken some corn down and they had taken some beans down, but there was also still some standing corn. And way out in between what would have been a bean field and a cornfield, there were these long, narrow island strips of trees. And since the beans were gone, I could easily get to them. And I thought, well, that's a pretty sweet isolated bedding location. I'm gonna go try to hunt that Saturday morning. So I did, and saw absolutely nothing, which was really awesome. But on my way in, I scouted one of the drainages through the corn, hopped into the timber portion, and kind of scouted my way in an area that I had not been before, and worked my way out to the cut hayfield on the other side of the timber. And there was no deer activity. I love that nobody has done shit all day long, and now they are printing stuff while I'm trying to record a podcast. This is a problem when you have an office and a recording studio in your home. So here I am trying to record an audio podcast and somebody's printing shit. Fucking perfect. So I worked my way out to the cut hayfield, kind of nosed around on my way back in. I didn't want to tell Adam I had gotten up, but I just wanted to scout my way back to the truck. It was a pretty far walk. And on my way back to the truck, I was walking the edge of the hayfield along the timber, and a deer jumped up. It was bedded on the leeward side of the drainage ditch, so like the ledge going down into the dry creek bed. So he was laying down, the wind was blowing over his back. Very common, not unusual, is what it is. And he actually ran through the timber for a little bit and then hopped out into the field. And when he hopped into the field, I could see he was a definite shooter. Real big deer. And he ran across that cut hayfield, then dipped back into the timber. And when I walked my way over to that particular area, I could see where he dipped in. It was a very specific tree that he kind of cut in at. I was able to cut his track, see that he cut in right there. It looks like he took a run down into the lowest, least steep portion of the creek bed, and probably ran out to the standing corn on the other side, which is where we had bumped deer previously in September. So, I made Adam aware of that, and we made a plan to kind of hunt back in there again in the evening. And on Adam's way in, he bumped that same buck off the edge of the corn. So now he and I have both bumped this buck. The buck is probably living in this section of timber. It's maybe 150 yards wide, maybe 100 yards wide. And he's just kind of seemingly doing this loop. And now he's been bumped by two people in the same day. And, I think about that kind of stuff. But if this is his home, the chances are good he'll stay there for a little bit. I mean, he didn't see any of us. He just heard us walking. So we hunted that buck for 2 full days. And then we started to see nothing. It was like, oh man, we blew this particular property out. Like there's just nothing here anymore. And so, we decided to go back and scout some different properties, find a different piece of weehaw, maybe find an iWeehaw, which has more limited access. You actually have to check in every day at an iWeehaw. And so we did. We went to look at some other properties, and we were going to stay somewhere different. And we found this really great iWeehaw. And I walked 3 miles out there that day. Like I went down by the river and I walked through all this giant cedar thicket, and I made my way out to this island looking place. And there was great sign. I was bumping deer, but I was finding human sign too. Like some permanent sets were hung out there. And obviously, this borders up to somebody else's property, so why not, right? Looped all the way around, and I was on my way back to the truck, and I found a scrape, and then a rub, and then a rub, and I look up, and there is a giant mineral rock laying in the middle of the trail. No, I did. I stopped and I really looked hard. I looked all the way around and I couldn't see anything, but I was really surprised that I didn't see a camera right there. Maybe this person has already harvested a deer and so they took their cameras down, but this was an obvious mineral site, a very well-established mineral site on this public piece, which is illegal. And it was surrounded by rubs and scrapes. And I'm like, son of a bitch. You know, I got to call this in because I checked in at this property this morning. And if I don't say anything and I check out and then somebody checks in tomorrow and walks down here and finds this, I'm the last person that the state of Kansas has on record as being in this particular property. And I can't take that risk. It's not worth it. I'm obviously not going to hunt here. I mean, it had crossed my mind, like, what's it going to hurt? Like, it's already here. But then that's not right. And so I called it in. And I sent the game warden a pin on Onyx. And that was really a bummer. I mean, that was a real bummer. This is like 3 days in. We're trying to find a new spot. We just blew the other one out. And so Adam and I met for lunch, and, you know, when I say meet for lunch, I mean, I put water in a jet boil and then added it to a dehydrated meal and ate it in my front seat while he played the air drums in his car next to me. He had previously scouted a spot there and found a bunch of great sign, but he was frustrated. And, you know, I told him, I was like, I'm going to go. Or what he told me was, before he pulled away, he said, I'm going to head back east. And what he meant was we had left Unit 9 and driven all the way over to the far west side of Unit 8. So as far as we could go. And he was going to go back to those initial properties that we had stopped at on the way into town and just hunt those for the rest of the time and hopefully get on some deer. They're great properties and there were deer there. We just hadn't gotten, they weren't moving much. Like, it was really tough hunting. And so I said, okay, I'll do the same, but I'm going to scout a couple of properties near where we were before I commit to driving the full hour and a half back over there. So I drove by a couple cattle pastures that I didn't really care for. I'm leaving out a lot of details. I realize this. And that's just tough shit. I had hunted an alfalfa field one night, and the deer had come piling across the street at last light, you know, like 15 minutes left of does and fawns, no bucks. Pretty sweet access, pretty sweet little hidden alfalfa field. And the plan worked perfectly. Like, I had set up just perfectly. The wind was in my favor. And the deer did exactly what their tracks showed me in the mud on the side of the road. They literally came out at last light from a cattle pasture through the cedars down low, the lowest point at the road, and they jumped the fence, and they went right out to the alfalfa field. And so that was, you know, it was promising to see deer, just no bucks. Anyway, back to my scouting. As Adam heads east, I also start slowly heading east. Scout a couple properties on my way there, and then I find one that I feel like looks pretty cool, and I'm like real cool, and I'm making my way to it. And basically, the middle of this whole property is a funnel. The funnel runs north and south. The east side and the west side. The east side is a crop field. The west side is cattle pasture, and both of them are high. So the middle is, you know, for lack of a better explanation, a funnel. There's a little bit of woods and a creek bed. There is a grassy field with some oaks. There is some mature oaks dropping. There is cut corn, cut beans. So I parked and I got all my shit on, and I decided to scout my way in by way of the cut corn field towards, like, right down the funnel, allowing the two steep sides to be left alone. I was like 60 yards in, and I could see something shining in one of the trees, and I walked over, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's a fucking permanent ladder stand. Like, I just can't get away from this shit. So I walked up to figure out what the fuck they were even looking at, because it was in a weird spot. And it's obviously a gun stand. It looks out at the cattle pasture. I'm sure in the rut, the deer just cruise through there. And so I didn't really think much of it. But then I looped around that stand, and I had to cut back down through some cedars to get out to this cut cornfield. And in doing so, jumped a buck that was bedded in the cedars. And you could hear his antlers just cranking every single branch that he ran by on his way out. I'm like, ooh, that sounded like a big deer. This is exciting. Like I just bumped another buck. Like this is a great spot. It seemed untouched. So I quickly jumped my way through those cedars out into the field to see if that buck would cut across the corn. He did not, at least not that I could see. This is Tuesday, mind you. So we arrived on Friday. This is now Tuesday of the following week. I proceed to slowly walk in the direction that buck ran. Now, my hopes were that the buck ran higher up on that cattle pasture side and would potentially. And so then when I pulled up my Onyx and kind of laid it down to look at the topography, there was a very natural drainage off of that high cattle pasture, far more subtle than the other one. So it, to me, said, that is how he will loop around and come down into this creek bed and potentially either work through the timber or come back up into this grassy funnel to work back out to the acorns and the cut corn at the end of the night. And so my plan was to get somewhere between where I bumped him and that drainage and set up. And so I continued to slowly walk my way back, and the sign just got better and better and better. It got there was a really mature oak tree in there dropping acorns. There was waist to chest high grasses. There was a lot of saplings. There was a lot of immature oak trees, which I know the deer love to make scrapes in. And it was like this gateway of this grassy little field that was going back toward that drainage where I assumed that buck would work his way down through and out of at last light. And so I picked this spot, and it seems terrible. Like at first glance, it looks terrible. There was only one tree for me to get in to be able to shoot this area. And I had to climb a barbed wire fence to get into the cattle pasture. And then behind me was almost a sheer wall of rock. And I was basically, it almost looked like a dead tree. It was not dead, but it was nude from all of its foliage. And the problem I now had was that it was like 3 o'clock, maybe 3:30. And I'm like, dude, there's no way I'm going to hang in this tree in my saddle for 4.5 more hours. Like, I'm just not doing it. So this is where I need to be. I got a 10-yard chip shot if they walk right down this grassy field. I got a 40-yard shot if they come out over there. Like, seems fine. Like, my backdrop is good. The tree is wonky, but that's okay. So I set my platform and my sticks and my tether and everything up in the tree, and then I just laid on the ground for like an hour and a half, waiting for time to pass. I just didn't want to be in the tree for that long, and because the sun was blasting on me, I was facing west, so the sun was just baking. And it was not that it was that hot in Kansas this time, but if you're sitting there, even if it's 60 degrees, 65 degrees, and the sun is just blasting you with no cover, it's hot. And so I just laid down. I ended up taking a poop, and I had to cut my sleeves off to wipe, which seems to be a common theme with me every year, no matter where I go. And while I'm doing this, while I'm waiting, Adam decides to tell me that he has decided to go home. He has had enough of Kansas. The hunting is tough. He doesn't have enough gas in the tank to try to find a new property. He's not excited to hunt anywhere. He's not excited about anything. He's stressed. He's frustrated. He just sleeping in the back of the truck isn't great. And so I'm trying to encourage him to like take the night off. Just go glass. Just go glass. Don't stress about finding a tree. Just go find a high point and glass down at the fields and try to get a game plan for the next day. Just like You don't have to hunt. Just take a break, go do something that's not stressful. We'll get a hotel, we'll sleep well, and then you can hunt again tomorrow. Like, don't force yourself to hunt tonight if you don't know where to go. And, you know, maybe there were other things going on with him too. I don't know. That's for him to say. But he decided to go home. And maybe he had already been 2 hours into his drive at that point. So there was no coming back. So I'm dealing with the idea that I am now alone in Kansas, which doesn't scare me. I have done it before. But there is an intimidation factor that goes with being alone, sleeping in the back of your truck in the middle of nowhere. Service is not great. And then there's this, what happens if I do shoot a big deer and I need help? And so you start thinking about all that stuff, and it's a little stressful and whatever. You just, you know, I got 4 days left, and I've left Kansas early before, and I told myself I wasn't going to stop my hunting trip because I can't promise that I'll get another hunting trip this year. Like, there's just no guarantee that I had more time to go back to Kansas, but there was a guarantee that I was there on that day, at that time, and I had all the way through Friday, barring any crazy unforeseen circumstance at home that my family needed me, I for sure could hunt through Friday. And so I said, I understand, buddy, and we'll talk soon. And I think I was in the saddle by 4:40. And it was getting frustrating because, again, I was facing west, but that's just how it had to be. And I was blinded. I couldn't face west, so I would have to like loosen my tether and turn my back. But then I couldn't, and then I felt guilty because I'm like, man, I have no idea what's coming from the south. If anything, like, I can't hear anything. It's windy. The sun is blinding me. If I face the sun, it's like roasting me. But if I put my back to it, I can see okay, but I can't see anything where I'm hunting. And then my back gets hot. So I was just like on a spit roast up in my tree stand, just rotating around, and trying to just get to the point where the sun gets just down behind the trees and I can comfortably sit there and see what I needed to see. And, you know, we get there. We make it. It's 5:30 maybe. And I hear some racket. You know what? I wonder what time it really was. I'll bet you it was after 6. Now that I think about it, I wonder what time that really was. I'll cut all this out in post. So I texted him at 7:12 on the 21st, maybe. And I said, I just missed one. Shot under his belly. Fuck me. And so what happened is, I'm looking west. The sun is in the trees, and I can hear this cracking. I can actually hear deer running through the dry creek bed. And I hadn't really looked down there too much, but I knew that it was steep based on how it looked at the road. And I could hear them running in there. And then suddenly I heard like a loud crash. And when I looked to where the noise came from, I could see a deer jump up out of the creek bed, and I could see antlers. And so I was like, holy fucking shit. Adam just told me he's leaving. I bumped a buck on my way out here. I set up in this spot. This is exactly what the fuck I thought was going to happen. This is going to fucking happen. And this buck is what I would call typical Kansas buck. Like massive, massive body. Probably the biggest bodied deer I've ever seen on the hoof. But he's super tight inside the ears, but so fucking tall. I can't remember if he was an 8 or a 10. I didn't get any of it on film. He was so tall, so tight and so tall. And I knew immediately this was a shooter. And he climbed out of that creek bed, and he hung out in a lot of those little saplings along the edge of the grass and the timber and the little oak trees in there. And he shook his head around in there and rubbed a little bit and made a little scrape. And then And then he slowly walked his way out into the grass and stopped and started to pee. And he took it was the longest piss I've ever seen a deer take in my life. Like, he had probably been on his belly for a while and really had to go. And when he started peeing, he like, you know, I don't know if maybe you don't know this, but they like tuck their back legs in and they piss down their glands. But he like leaned his head forward, and I mean, if I remember correctly, it looked like it was such a satisfying piss that he like closed his eyes and he was calm, and he just had no idea I was there. I was downwind of him. He was never going to be upwind of me. He was calm, but when he finished, he was looking to the timber. And if he went to the timber, that was it. He was gone. And he wasn't really far. Like, at this particular time, he wasn't far away from me. But I had my bow and I tried to range find him, but because he was west and I was looking west and the sun was setting, I could not find this deer in my rangefinder. I was blinded by the sunlight, blinded by the light. I was not revved up like a deuce, but I was pissed off like a goose. He was sitting there and I couldn't range him. And I'm watching his demeanor, and if he comes out, if he walks east and goes south, he will walk right at me at 8 yards, 10 yards maybe not even 10 yards. And so I have this concern that if that's what he does, I won't be able to draw. I did think about that when I set up, but I was just figured I'd cross that bridge when I got there. And had he gone north, he was going to go into the timber and potentially out of my life forever. And I got to start saying, so what? Like, when I get to that point in my decision-making process, I need to start saying, yeah, so. Because what happens next is the worst case scenario. So I'm watching his demeanor and I can't figure out what he's going to do. But all I know is he is perfectly broadside. He is not looking at me. He just finished pissing. He's probably shaking the drips off. Little do I know. And he is looking away. So no matter what I do, he'll never see me. So I kind of looked around and I'm like, well, I ranged that little oak tree earlier and it was 25 yards, maybe 26 yards. He's behind that. So I know he's more than 25. But how far behind that is he? Is he 5 yards? No. Is he 10 yards? He's at least 10 yards. So I adjusted my sight to 35 yards. And I decided that I'm going to shoot this buck rather than wait and see what happens. You know, hindsight being what it is, that was the wrong decision. There's a lot of wrong decisions that happened this day. When I set up in my tree, I put a gear strap up above me. I have my bow on my right because I'm a lefty, and I have my accessory hooks on the strap. And on the back of the tree, I always put my quiver, the back. And then on the part of the tree that's on the left is my backpack. Because I feel like I access my backpack more frequently, which is, short-sighted. And the tree, this particular tree actually leaned away from me. So everything was even further away. I was almost standing still, like almost standing vertical in my saddle on my platform. And so I have made the conscious decision that this deer is 35 yards and I'm going to shoot him broadside while he has no idea that anything is going on. And I think he's 35 yards. And so I draw back. And mind you, this has taken 5 minutes, 10 minutes to get to this point. I have gone through the holy shit. I've gone through the adrenaline. I've gone through the shakies. I've gone through the calming breaths. I'm very relaxed. And I draw back and I get the pin. I get in my peep. I make sure my bow is level. He's still looking away. And I settle my 35-yard pin down on the bottom third of the body. Mistake number 511. Based on him not even knowing that I'm there, I probably should have aimed a little higher. So, for multiple reasons, I settle the pin, I squeeze it off, the lighted knock goes, the arrow flies true, left and right, dead center, up and down, looked like I went completely under his belly. And he reacts. He doesn't mule kick. He jumps, startled, and prances to me at 15 yards. And he stops, looking back the direction that he came. Again, has no idea I'm here. He has no idea what just happened. He has no idea where that came from. All he knows is that something just happened, and he jumped actually closer to me, and he's so fucking close that I cannot get an arrow from my quiver. Remember when I said I shoot with my quiver off, and the quiver was on the back of the tree, which is leaning away from me? I couldn't lean forward with my bow in my hand. I had to set it back on the bow hanger, which is fine. But then I couldn't get my quiver was so far away from me that I had to lean against the tree quietly, all while this fucking massive buck is 15 yards in front of me, trying to figure out what the fuck just happened. And I finally quietly get an arrow off, but by the time I get it off my quiver and I stand back up and I get my bow off of the bow hanger and the arrow on my string and I reset my drop away rest, he is 50 yards walking to the timber. So straight in the butthole shot, which I'm just not going to take it. So mistakes were made. I should shoot with my quiver on. I should put my quiver more accessible. The deer wasn't aware that I was there. He wasn't going to drop. I should have held my pin a little higher on the body, maybe mid at least. And so the deer walks out of my life. And he slowly, like tail tucked, slowly walks into the woods, down into the dry creek bed. And when he turns, he looks like he's panting. I'm like, that's interesting. He didn't run. Like, that's just very odd. And I look where he was standing in front of me, and there appears to be blood in the grass. And I thought, holy shit, I might have actually hit that deer, but I can't figure out where I hit him, because when he stood in front of me, I didn't see an entry or an exit wound. But I could see blood in the grass. And so I pulled the binos up, and sure enough, there's a giant red spot in the grass. Like, he was clearly bleeding. So I waited till dark and had a doe come out, and I could hear bucks grunting to my left. At last light, I get down and there's deer in the fucking field. Like, I have to just sit in the dark now and wait. And I get everything. I left all my shit in the tree. I'm like, I'm gonna have to just come back tomorrow and figure out what the fuck just happened. So I jump the barbed wire fence. I go out to where that thing is. There is a pile of blood, like a pretty good sized blood spot in this field. But I didn't see an entry or an exit wound. I never lost sight of the lumen or my lighted knock. So I just didn't really believe that I hit this deer in anything other than his, like, the very tiniest bottom portion of his tummy. Like, I don't feel like, and so then I go grab my arrow, and it's covered in fat, which is, the underbelly, the brisket, a teeny tiny smidge of blood on it, like nothing crazy. So I walk it back to the blood spot. I stick my arrow in the ground, and I quietly go back to my truck, and I make some phone calls. Called my buddy DJ and talked to him about it, and we talked about how it's very possible that deer could die. It could take several days. It could take a week. He could survive. But ultimately, the decision was made to sleep, get up in the morning, and go out there and give him at least 12 hours. So I did. I made some phone calls and talked to everybody, and decided to go to sleep and get up in the morning. And I drove a half an hour to town, and I got gas, and I got some breakfast. And by breakfast, I mean Casey's breakfast sandwiches. Drive a half an hour back to the property, and it's just barely getting light. And it's cold, man. Everything's covered in frost. And so I'm like, well, I'll let the sun come up a little bit and kind of melt some of this frost off so I can see what I'm doing. And so I did. I waited till about 8:30 or 9 o'clock, and I slowly walked my way out there, bow in hand, because I was hoping he was going to maybe just be laying in his bed and in need of another arrow. And, I made my way to my arrow, and I had a really easy track job. Like, he bled enough that I could easily track him through that grassy field to where he went into the woods and down the creek bed and up the other side of the creek bed and over toward bedding, and then back right and then back left. And he started working his way towards the open cut bean field. And I thought, motherfucker, this has happened to me before. I've shot a deer in the belly low, and he lived. In fact, he's on my wall today because I shot him later in November. But I shot him the second night of season, and we tracked him to a bean field, and then we lost him. This deer did the same thing. I tracked Blood to a bean field where he stood, obviously, and then he actually looped back around onto his trail, and then I lost it. He never bet a single time. At this particular point, it was just barely specks of blood and teeny tiny drops of blood. It had been 5 hours of tracking, and I don't think he's dead. I think I literally gave him a paper cut on the lowest part of his skin. And because it was pointing down and his skin was open from that razor blade that went through it, he just bled. And I don't think that deer is going to die. I don't think it went through his actual chest cavity. I think it was a literal flesh wound. And I spent the entire day traipsing around that property and realized I can't hunt this property now. And I don't know where I'm going to hunt tonight. And I don't have a place to go. And I can't hunt this. I mean, I could have, but I think it would have been less than fruitful. And it struck me. I'm out of gas. I got nothing left in the tank to try and find a new property. I don't think the deer are moving right now. Not well enough for me to. And then this fucking sounds crazy, right? Like I just shot a buck the night before, and I'm sitting here making excuses. But I decided to call it, and I decided to pack my shit up and start heading back east. Start heading home, but on the way home, stop and hunt in Illinois. And so I did. I called my family and I told them what my plan was and why, and drove, I guess 6 hours or something like that. I think I drove 6 hours, and got a hotel room. And then I got up in the morning on Thursday morning. So this is now Thursday. So I have 2 days left. I basically spent all day Wednesday tracking that deer. Again, great property. I would go back there in a heartbeat. I couldn't hunt it again that day because I just absolutely blew it up looking for that deer. So I drove the 6.5 hours to Illinois. I got a hotel. I got up in the morning on Thursday and hunted an area that my cameras had told me was being used very frequently by bucks during the daylight. And that's best case scenario for me. Like, hey, man, there's bucks here in the daylight. I know exactly where this is. I know how to get there. What I didn't realize at the time, and I didn't even realize this until after Thursday morning, was that the access trail is the same exact trail the deer are using. So I didn't realize that until on my way out that day. I got in there clean. I didn't bump anything. I didn't think. As soon as I got really close to my destination, I felt like I heard a deer running, but there's no guarantee. I got set up, and then like it was 4 minutes before shooting light in the morning on Thursday. You can hear that slow walk, the toe drag of a heavy-footed buck. And he sounded like he was going to come into this bowl that I was hunting, which is, I learned a lot about that little bowl while I was there. Those deer like that because they can get the smells from everywhere. I really thought I was okay. The wind was not cooperating. I don't know if that buck ever caught my wind or what, but he got he never came out into the bowl. He hung out in the cover, in the thick stuff. Like he got real close, and you could hear him pacing, kind of like he'd come a little closer to me, and then you could hear him get further away. And he did that for probably a half an hour, maybe 20 minutes. And then he eventually blew and took off. And so I'm guessing he did end up catching my scent profile, based on how it was swirling in there. So anyway, but that's a good sign. Like my first sit, I got a buck in there at first light, but I really thought I was going to seal the deal really early. And then as the morning went on, again, the wind was not favorable, but I was able to rattle in a 1-year-old. Had a couple does come in from an area that I was not expecting them to, and they busted me. They wind busted me. And so I got down and I moved some cameras, and I went back and I went back to the hotel, and I took a shower, and I ate lunch, and I called my family, and I was really, again, after hunting for so long, your brain is just absolutely loaded full of nonsense. And so you just have a hard time figuring out where to hunt, because nothing's working or everything's working, and it's tough. And so I decided that my legs needed a break, and I was going to take my hang-on stand in with me. So I brought my .5 in on Thursday afternoon, and I had an idea where I wanted to go, but I wasn't 100% sure on how I wanted to get there. So I scouted my way in on the trail and kind of followed some sign. I followed some historic sign and some new sign, and I ended up getting out to the point of a ridge that has a drainage, and then the other side goes up to some private. And historically, the deer have always moved through here, and I just hadn't got anything great on camera in a while. But the sign says the deer are in here. I get to this point of the ridge, and there is an obvious and glaring and fresh and big, solid rub line coming down the far side of the ridge, through the drainage and up my side and into the bedding. So they're definitely moving exactly perfect. So I wedged myself in between a couple of trees, and I get set up, and I'm not kidding, probably 30 minutes later, I can hear something running on the other side of the drainage, and I look, and it's a coyote. Now, we've been having coyotes in here, like, constantly. So there's definitely a coyote problem in southern Illinois. There's one less coyote now, but I did have a coyote come in behind me and work its way into, it probably listened to me traipse through the woods and wasn't sure what I was. Came to check it out. It worked. There's 2 scrapes in the bottom of this drainage, and it worked into one of the scrapes and was sniffing around, and it was big. And so I actually shot it. I think I shot it in the face. And so this is Thursday night. I will tell you right now that I did not enjoy that. Like, I don't want coyotes out there. I don't want to eliminate them from the ecosystem, but I don't want them like patrolling the property in the way that they were. They were patrolling all day long. There was, come to find out, 2 adult coyotes and at least 1 juvenile coyote. And this coyote came in behind me, and I shot it. And when it started to bark and howl, and I watched it roll around in the woods, and then it like ran back down into the drainage and out towards the river bottom. And then I had to listen to it for a half an hour. I did not like that. It was way too much like a pet. It was something that I'm glad I did, and I would probably do again, but I don't really want to make it a habit. It was very unpleasant. It was something I don't want to do again. But I definitely thought to myself, this night's ruined. And then shortly after that, a larger coyote came in, and from what I could tell, was trying to figure out either where that injured one or now dead one is, or what happened to it. And it actually came into the point of impact and sniffed the arrow. And when it was down doing that, I was standing up, flailing my arms to try to get its attention. And it saw me, and it very aggressively circled me and grunted at me as if to say, I know what you did and you are going to pay. Like, you shot my wife or you shot my husband. Like, I'm personifying these coyotes, but I'm imagining this is what happened. And so it came in, it snooped around for a little while. It circled me aggressively, and I was trying to flail and throw things at it. I wasn't mentally prepared to shoot another coyote because I was already down one arrow, and I didn't want to go down 2 arrows. So I just kind of let it go. It eventually worked its way to the east and barked for another half an hour. And I ended up seeing no deer that night, which I can't say that I'm surprised, but I saw no deer. But I loved the set. I said, this is where it's going to happen if it happens. So I left everything in the tree, snuck out of there, not quietly, because everything's bone dry and so loud. But I got out of there and went back to the hotel and, kind of got some rest and had some dinner and talked to my wife and kids and then got up Friday morning to go in there. And my access wasn't great, but I didn't want to go through the bedding. So I looped way around and I walked in through the drainage and took my time, walked as slow as I possibly could. Again, I didn't have to set anything up, so I just climbed up into my set and got situated. And I think I was probably in there, 45 minutes before shooting time. And then again, 5 minutes before shooting time, I can hear the very slow walk of an obvious buck in the drainage. And so it actually comes from in front of me to the left. It works down into the drainage and it starts to work away. And it's now shooting time. So I lightly grunted at the deer, and it eventually worked its way to me, but it was just a spike. But it sure walked. It walked larger than it actually was. So that was interesting. Once I finally saw it, but it worked its way all the way to me and saw me and then took off. So, I don't know. That's probably early morning. That's like first light Friday morning. Again, this is my last morning. My plan is to either hunt the morning and go home or hunt all the way through the evening and then just get home super late. So, I was just kind of hanging out, waiting. I think I did a rattling set, just to try to get things moving. It was really cold again, like right around the freezing temperature. And then right around, like 7, maybe 7:50, 7:45, I can hear something walking in front of me. And so I stand up, I grab my bow, I get my phone on to record, and suddenly the deer is right in front of me. Like, I didn't think they were going to come through the bedding. I thought they were going to kind of loop downwind and come up from the drainage, but this deer came right out of the bedding, right in front of my face. And this is all on film, but so I'm standing there frozen because I can't do anything, and I can't see what the deer is yet. And so he gets to probably 10 yards in front of me and catches. He's like, man, that's just, something's not right about that tree. Again, I'm wedged in between 2 trees, but he saw something that he could tell was not normal. And so he locked up. And at this point, I know this deer. This deer has a really clean 5-point side and then has like this really long blade on his right side. But he also, when he was in front of me, I realized he's got some other shit going on too. And I was like, he's a cool deer. He's big. I'm shooting this buck. And if he can give me a chance. And so, but he's locked on me. And they do the head bob where he drops it and he lifts it up real quick to see if I move. I've got my right hand on the bow, my left hand on my release. The phone is recording and is on him. And he slowly starts to step and turn and rotate away from me. And then he blows and jumps and gets to maybe 15 yards. And as soon as he jumps, I drew back. And he stopped, like, almost perfectly broadside. and I squeezed it off on him and hit him high lungs perfectly, pass through, no problem. I watched him. He does the mule kick. He tears ass out of there. And then like 5 minutes later, that juvenile coyote comes walking in. So I'm not sure if the coyote bumped him to me. I'm not really sure what exactly happened, but I will say that there's a coyote problem. So I wait about 45 minutes to an hour. I think 45 minutes. I got down. I left my shit in the tree. I was like, I'm just going to check blood. I went and looked at the arrow. Totally soaked. Great. No problem. But there's no blood anywhere. There's no blood anywhere around. None. Zero. Zip, zilch, nada. There's not a single drop of blood. And I instantly panic. I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me, man. Like, I grab my phone and I rewatch the video. Like, it clearly lungs. It is high. And that was the problem. I had to go back, and this is why filming is amazing. Like, I was able to figure out exactly what tree he was standing in front of, his angle, and then I was able to watch him run around certain trees in the woods, and I was able to follow that path, and I realized he left on the exact same path that I came in on the day before. And so I just I think I took a half an hour looking for blood and couldn't find anything. And I said, well, you know what? I think he went this way. I'm going to just keep looking. After about 30 yards, I started to find blood. And then it was insane blood and obvious, like, that he's on his way out blood. Like, he's dying. Because how he was weaving back and forth on the trail, blood spraying out of both sides. What happens is when you shoot a deer high in the lungs, the blood has to fill up in the lungs before it starts to spray out. So if you shoot a deer low in the lungs, it's going to fill really quick and blood will be shooting out very quickly. But if you shoot them high, those lungs will fill with blood and that deer will die, but there's not going to be a blood trail for a little while. And that's what happened. I eventually found blood. I eventually trailed him, and he died right on the trail. And 90 minutes later, I was able to recover my deer, and a coyote had already pulled hair off of his hindquarters. So I think that little coyote that I spooked that came in 5 minutes after I shot him followed him literally to where he laid, and I probably scared the coyote out of there. But so that was my Illinois buck for 2025. I was able to shoot him on the last morning of my 7-day vacation, and I was able to get everything processed while I was there and bring it all home. Like, I processed my own deer while I was there. I cut everything off. I cut the head off and cleaned all the stuff out of it that you can't bring home, and brought it all home. And I was able to be home late Friday night. And so, I say, like, I'm a slut for adventure because it didn't matter where I was at. What mattered was that I had this adventure planned, and it was to spend time away from home in unfamiliar territory and familiar territory, but push myself and learn and read and react and adapt and spend time outside and sleep in your truck and get uncomfortable and do things that are not sitting at a desk answering emails all day. And look at the night sky when there's absolutely zero light pollution, and listen to the coyotes howl and just have an adventure. And I'm such a slut for that. Like, give me that all day, every day, all day, every day, every day. I encourage you who may not travel to hunt to try it. Even if it's just one of your neighboring states. Like, you don't have to go 13 hours to the Midwest. Like, just get a tag in one of your neighboring states and just go hunt in unfamiliar territory. There's nothing more exhilarating than putting yourself somewhere you've never been before and trying to outwit those animals that live there every single day. It is a really special thing. And so for that, I'm forever thankful. And I'm forever thankful that my family lets me do that. And I have a job that I don't like, but also lets me do that. And I have friends that I can call when I have questions and offer support. And I have friends that are encouraging and thoughtful and kind and funny. And I'm so thankful for all of that. And for all of you who take the time to listen to my stupid ass ramble, thank you as well. You know, I love doing this, and I love being outdoors, and I love the adventure, and I'm so thankful. So thanks everybody for listening to my week-long Kansas and Illinois adventure, and we will talk to you all soon. Hey, listen, it's we're like a month into our season, and I'd be remiss if I didn't offer a tip. If you have a rechargeable rangefinder, recharge it. If it takes batteries, put new batteries in it. And if you have a light on your pin, a sight light on your pin on your bow, just change those batteries. I had to, and I thought maybe somebody else might, because Adam was trying to range a buck not long ago, and his fucking batteries were dead. And he was, well, that was when we were in Michigan hunting, but he was trying to range a deer, and his rangefinder was dead. So don't let battery power or batteries be what prevents you from finding success. So anyway, thanks everybody. We'll talk to y'all soon.